Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today's question is, can I analyze the case of Deobra Delone Redden? Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and consider supporting me on Patreon. I'll put the link to Patreon in the description for this video. First, I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the alleged crime, then offer my analysis. Deobra Delone Redden was born sometime around 1993 and lived in Las Vegas, Nevada. In 2021, he spent time in prison after a third offense domestic battery conviction. On April 18, 2023, the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police responded to a private residence on Lowry Avenue. Deobra's brother-in-law was on the phone with the police reporting his car stolen when Deobra grabbed a metal baseball bat and started swinging at him. Deobra was charged with felony assault with a deadly weapon. In November 2023, he was permitted to plead guilty to attempted battery causing substantial bodily harm. He was freed on bond until his sentencing. Now moving to the timeline of the alleged crime. On January 3, 2024, not long after 11 a.m., 30-year-old Deobra Redden appeared at the Clark County District Court to face sentencing. He tried to explain to the judge, Mary Kay Holstus, how he didn't need to go to prison. He said, quote, "I would like to tell the court that, based on my criminal history, I feel like I shouldn't be sent to prison for a second time," unquote. The judge responded, "Have you looked at your criminal history?" After Deobra indicated that he had, the judge listed his offenses, including 3 felonies and 9 misdemeanors. She said, quote, "You got a lot going on, sir. Battery on a protected person, robberies, attempted home invasion," unquote. Deobra then tried to make his case for not going to prison by saying, quote, "I just figure I'm in a better place in my mind, my mental health. I have a support system. I just got hired as a teamster for a union making $20 an hour. And the reason behind every single domestic violence is I'd been dealing with mental health, and I didn't know about dealing with mental health court, and I still didn't know that I had a mental health problem until August 2022 when I realized I have a problem with this. And like having a dictionary, understanding myself, getting to know myself a little better and applying it to my personality, and having it hit me at that moment in those instances, and trying to learn from my mistakes, I feel like I shouldn't be sent to prison. But if it's appropriate for you, then you have to do what you have to do. But I figure that if I'm in a better place in my life, I'm not doing drugs, I'm not out there committing crimes now, I feel like I should be given a shot because I'm in a better place than I was then. I'm a person who never stops trying to do the right thing, no matter how hard it is. And I'm trying, and I never give up trying to do the right thing. I'm not a rebellious person. I don't want to be standing here. I don't want you to have to sit up there and waste your time as well," unquote. Deobra's attorney jumped into the conversation and explained how he believed his client would do well on probation and was worth the risk. The judge was not impressed. She said, quote, "I appreciate that, but I think it's time he got a taste of something else because I just can't with that history," unquote. A court officer started moving toward Deobra to handcuff him. At this point, Deobra appeared to be unhappy with his impending prison journey and deviated from his philosophy of trying to do the right thing. He yelled expletives. Deobra said, "Nah, blank that blank." In a dazzling display of athletic ability, he jumped over the defense table and dove over the bench directly at the judge. Deobra landed on top of the judge, slammed her head against the wall, struck her on the head, and pulled out her hair. The court clerk immediately intervened, along with several other people who rushed in to help. I guess one could say that when Deobra literally cleared the bench, it caused the court officers to figuratively clear the bench. Deobra continued to fight, but was eventually brought under control and taken to jail. The judge sustained minor injuries, but returned to work the next day. The court clerk sustained cuts to his hand, and a courtroom deputy had a gash on his head and a dislocated shoulder. Deobra made several statements in jail. He said, "The judge has it out for me." He called the judge evil, said he was having a bad day, and indicated that he tried to kill her. Disappointed in the example he was setting, Deobra also said, "I am sorry you guys had to see that." No doubt one of his main priorities in life was shielding the delicate sensibilities of corrections officers from offensive behavior. On January 8, 2024, Deobra was brought before the same judge to receive the sentence which had been delayed by the bench leaping fiasco. This time he was surrounded by several law enforcement officers who were there to prevent a repeat acrobatic performance. Deobra was handcuffed, sporting a mask, and wearing fashionable orange mittens. If the staff at the jail was going for the Silence of the Lambs look, they were successful. The judge gave Deobra the sentence that she attempted to give him 5 days earlier. He received 19 to 48 months in prison for the 2023 baseball bat attack. Deobra will be facing somewhere around 15 new charges stemming from his attack on the judge and those who assisted her. The charges include attempted murder, battery on a protected person, battery on an officer, battery by a prisoner, intimidating a public officer, and extortion. Realistically, his sentence is going to drastically increase. This will give Deobra plenty of time to become a better person and focus on not being rebellious. Now moving to my analysis. Here are my thoughts on a few areas that stood out to me in this case. Item number 1. Deobra's older sister told the media that Deobra had been diagnosed with schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. Technically speaking, if a person meets the full criteria for schizophrenia and bipolar disorder, then schizoaffective disorder would be the expected diagnosis. This disorder is a combination of schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. Either way, based on the older sister's statement, it's reasonable to believe that Deobra has had some symptoms of psychosis, as well as symptoms of depression and mania. She also indicated that Deobra was born with crack cocaine in his system and did not have psychotropic medications in the period before the outburst. This brings me to item number 2. Could schizophrenia explain Deobra's behavior in the courtroom, or is it more likely that he was simply acting out because he didn't get his way? Psychosis involves a person experiencing hallucinations and/or delusions. It is a symptom of schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, bipolar disorder, and a few other mental disorders. Unfortunately, psychosis has a strong association with violence. If a person is psychotic, they are 49 to 68% more likely to engage in violent behavior. This violence could, of course, include homicide. We see that schizophrenia affects about 1% of the population, but 5% of homicidal offenders. For people who have schizophrenia, the 1-year violence rate is 8.4%. For the rest of the population, it's 2.1%. About 15 to 20% of inmates meet the criteria for a psychotic disorder. When schizophrenia is combined with other factors, the risk of violence can dramatically increase. These factors include young age, male gender, low socioeconomic status, and substance use. The last item is a particularly powerful predictor of violence. It increases the risk by a factor of 4. When looking at the statistics on schizophrenia, it is reasonable to believe that this disorder contributed to Deobra's behavior. He may have been angry about not getting his way, but schizophrenia could have contributed other factors that increased his risk of acting on that feeling, like paranoia, delusions, difficulty with impulse control, and disorganized thinking. Item number 3. Deobra's violent attack on the judge will ensure that he spends a lot of time in prison receiving inadequate mental health care. When an offender commits a public act of violence, it becomes very difficult to view him with compassion. Some people who watch the video of him attacking the judge want Deobra to spend the rest of his life in prison. Unfortunately, there is no valid violence risk assessment for people with schizophrenia, so there is no good way to know when Deobra will be safe to be released from prison. One thing is for certain, whatever he has been doing to make himself better has not been successful. He is not currently worth the risk, despite what his attorney indicated. I think Deobra should be held accountable for his behavior, but it's also important that he receive treatment for his mental illness. His behavior is a reminder that the mental health treatment community has a long way to go before adequately addressing the association between schizophrenia and violence. Now moving to my final thoughts. Some people look at the justice system as an obstacle to those with mental illness receiving treatment. The bench has become a symbol of that obstacle. Deobra's flying over the bench behavior is definitely not a productive way to address weaknesses in the justice system, but one could argue that he did attempt to convey an important point. Namely, the bench should never be a hurdle to justice. Those are my thoughts in the case of Deobra Delone Redden. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comment section. They always generate an interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found my analysis of this topic to be informative. Thanks for watching.